What is up, you beautiful gamers, and welcome back to Role-Playing Games. Today we're reviewing Windbound, the highly expected adventure survival game that has been subject to constant Zelda comparisons due to the artistic style resemblances. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like this stuff, alright? With that out of the way, let's get into the matter. Alright, like always, first we're gonna talk about the graphics thing. God gracious, is it a gorgeous looking game, at least from a standalone point of view. Character animations are really well done. Also, particles in cutscenes are heavily inspired, again, by Breath of the Wild stuff. It gives some strong vibes of it, and this is also true for character animations as well. You'll notice that our main character runs almost identical to Link in Breath of the Wild. Also, physics when you get hit have the same hilarious ragdoll animation that we have in the Zelda game. The physics of your clothes resembling the wind blowing really add an extra layer to the immersion feeling you're having while you play the game. Textures are nice to the eye, and this is mostly something to do with the artistic style of the game. We all know that cartoonish-like games tend to perform exceedingly well in this department because textures don't need as many details to be able to look good. The skyboxes are mixed up here, and they do have their pros and cons. For once, clouds look quite static and lifeless. They don't move or try to add any sense of animation to the game, although one thing that needs to be pointed out here is that while they are static, there's some separate animation for thunder and storm that's building in the distance, and they managed to somehow make up for the static kind of clouds that you have in here. Color palette, it's actually quite beautiful, and depending on the time of the day, you'll get a different kind of feeling on the bloom. The sunrises and sunsets are handled in a beautiful manner. They are gorgeous, and watching them is just a real joy. The draw distance has a major role, gameplay-wise speaking, since you'll have to be traversing around an island to island to gather resources to find the key items to proceed to the next chapter. While you're on the islands, there really is not much to see in the draw distance since they're really small, and unfortunately they do sometimes feel quite empty. Foliage and grass looks really soft, although a down point would be that despite this, there is no really much diversity in it. As for biomas and different places to visit, there are a few, but most of the times you're getting the obvious islander feeling that the game has. Water is really well animated, and the feeling of wild sea you get while traversing is really noticeable. However, sometimes camera can be a little bitch here and there, acting like a dildo with endless batteries when the waves are small and they're in high number, but that is really nothing a patch wouldn't fix. Moving on, let's talk about sound. Like I mentioned before, they seem to be taking huge inspiration in Zelda Breath of the Wild here as well. Even on other Zelda titles, the first cutscene when the main character tries to shout out to their comrades sounds like Little Link's sister on Wind Waker. The little cutscenes you find around each time you grab a key item sound almost identical to that when you do on the previous mentioned title. The soundtrack is really special, and the mix between music parts of the game and the silent wind areas every time you're exploring an island, they do build an immersive atmosphere of this idea to give you the strength and the hope while reminding you that you're stranded in this archipelago and you have to survive. I would actually do find myself listening to the game's official soundtrack just for the joy of it from time to time. As for the story, we have a bit of a hit and miss here. The world around you actually is interesting, and the mystery surrounding the sense of discovery that you get as you learn more of your people and what happened to an ancient civilization do get you immersed and compelled to want to know more about the world and what did happen here. Metaphorical and poetic language emulating a mystic style add an extra layer to the feeling of wanting to know more. However, there's a huge drawback here. You learn of the world here by listening to little bits of story you find every time you pick a key item and in some portions of the game. Sadly, there really is no point of direction in the narrative. You're just walking aimlessly with no focal point or sense of direction. There's no antagonist to face, no starting point as to why it all happened, and there really is not much that compels you to move forward other than your own personal taste on discovery, and that's what it is. It's a personal taste narrative driven approach. If you're more into the direct storytelling with cutscenes that tell you a story, then Windbound, it's probably something you'll really not enjoy. And even if you're one of those that do enjoy discovering the lore of the game, it falls a little short here. The islands are rather simple, and nothing you see in them points at a specific event that could have occurred in them. You don't have a codex to consult and try to link bits of the story together that you're collecting throughout your playthrough. Right, now moving on to gameplay. Again, we have a little bit of a hit and miss here. First, let's talk about on the core of the game and something that links the story here. Let's divide the thing into sections while I tell you what can you expect of the game without spoiling anything out of from you. You have 6 chapters. In every chapter, you have to collect 3 key items scattered throughout the islands to proceed to the next portion of the game. While you explore, as you gather these 3 key items, your second goal will be to improve your surviving tools as well as your boat. And the boat is hugely important, since every time you get through a chapter, you have to face a race of swords in a level where you have to use your ship to avoid obstacles and see enemies that can destroy it. If you end up reaching this point without making a sturdy enough ship and it gets destroyed on the way before you can reach the end of the level, you'll probably fall into the sea and drown, in which case you'll have to start the chapter from the very get-go again. And that pretty much sums up everything the game can offer to you as a primary basis. While you explore, you do have some secondary stuff, like the survival mechanics, which aren't really that bothersome. You only have to the hunger meter that decreases as you explore, but you have plenty of berries, mushrooms, and animals fauna to be able to keep up this at bay. One thing that really holds back the game is that controller inputs have a little bit of a delay. And in a game where you constantly have to be picking resources, this is quite troublesome, since little by little chips the time away while you play and it doesn't allow you to have a feeling of speed and dynamism. This is also problematic on the combat system. Enemies' attack animations aren't really that challenging to fight off back, but there are times when this delay on the controller inputs might actually cause you some troubles and it won't really much depend on to you. You do have a lock-on mechanic as well and dodge animation, which is a welcome addition here, being a survival game, a genre that never focuses that much on the fluidity of combat system, but like I said, the inputs do hurt the experience a little bit. There were many concerns about the game's navigation regarding the islands traversing. Much of the higher complaints about Wind Waker was that sailing, while enjoyable at first, was a chore after several hours into the game. Windbound does fix this at some degree. The distance between islands isn't really that long, and the mechanics of switching the sail to the wind's direction do add a layer of gameplay diversity while you're navigating the sea. As you improve your boat also, you'll be able to get more speed, and you won't have that much trouble navigating the sea. The resources mechanics revolve around that, finding stuff to be able to improve your vessel, and I have to say, watching the thing grow, get bigger, get better, get faster was actually quite rewarding, but the game doesn't offer that much more than that. The sense of exploration and discovery never really pumps up your senses, since what you see from the very beginning of the game, it's pretty much what you're gonna see at the end of it. With that being said, I rate my game reviews on whether do I recommend it to get a game having in consideration your own personal preferences and personal judgment. I break down the game as best as I can so that I can show it to you naked, and then you decide whether you like what you see or what you don't. The game isn't that long and I really don't see much more replay value on it. You have 6 chapters with a C track at the end of it. You can push every chapter doing exploration in like 2 hours, since all you have to do is collect the very same 3 key items from the last chapter. I lean here more into a wait for a sale buy, and even then I would have in consideration all that you saw in this review before you buy it. The game is charming, but if you're looking for an adventure game that scratches that Zelda edginess that media makes the game look like, then you won't find it here. You have a game where you explore this archipelago with beautiful graphics and soundtrack, mind you, as you build your ship while you learn about the people and the ancient civilization. But that's it. Now that you know what the game can offer to you and what it can't, it's up to you if you would like to play this game, and do let me know down in the comments below what you think so far of it. Don't forget to like the video, dislike if you don't like it, and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in the stuff that we have for ya here. With that being said, I'll see you beautiful, beautiful gamers in the next one.